Hi all, myself Priya S, Assistant Professor, Department of Applied Electronics and Instrumentation, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. Today I am going to take the topics optical sources and optical detectors. This particular topic comes under Module 1 of Optical Instrumentation, and the main references are given here. So what is an optical source? Optical source is the heart of fiber optical data system. Optical transmitter converts electrical input signal into corresponding optical signal. The optical signal is then launched into the fiber. Optical source is a major component in an optical transmitter. This device consists of an interface circuit, a drive circuit, and the components for optical source. The commonly used light sources include LEDs, edge LEDs, surface LEDs, and laser diodes. LEDs produce non-linear coherent light, whereas laser diode produce linear coherent light. Incoherent light sources used in multi-mode system, whereas laser diodes are used in single mode systems. Another thing is that laser diodes must operate above their threshold region to produce coherent light. The main characteristics of a light source of communication are: it must be possible to operate the device at a variety of temperature continuously for many years. It must be possible to modulate the light in output over a wide range of modulating frequencies. To couple large amount of power into an optical fiber, the emitting area should be small. The wavelength of the output should coincide with one of the transmission windows for the fiber type used. The light source must be compatible with the modern solid state devices, and it should have better linearity to prevent harmonics and intermodular distortion. Otherwise, it will affect the information passed from the transmitter. Then it should have high coupling efficiency, high optical output power, high reliability, and low weight. Also, it should be of low cost. So next is the common structure of LEDs. So LEDs are having double heterostructure. So conventional PN junction is homojunction because same semiconductor materials is used in both sides of the junction. So the electron hole recombination occurs in a relatively wide layer, that is approximately 10 micrometer in case of homojunctions. Because of this, the carriers are not confined to the immediate vicinity of the junction, and thereby high current density cannot be realized. So to resolve this problem, a thin layer, approximately 0.1 micrometer, is sandwiched between the P-type and the N-type layers. It can be doped or not doped. The carrier confinement occurs due to the band gap discontinuity of the junction. Such junction is called heterojunction, and the device is called double heterostructure. The diagram shows double heterojunction emitter. In any optical communication system, the requirements is bit rate should be 10 raised to minus 2 megabits per second. Optical power should be tens of microwatt, and therefore LEDs are best suitable optical sources. So LED structures are heterojunction, and heterojunction is actually an interface between two adjoining single structure semiconductor with a different band gap. Heterojunctions are of two type: isotype, that is NN or PP, or anti-isotype, that is PN. The main LED configurations are surface emitting LED and edge emitting LED. Both devices used double heterostructure to constrain the carriers and the light to an active layer. LEDs emits incoherent light through spontaneous emission. It is used for multi-mode system with 100 to 200 megabits per second rates. It is having a broad spectral width and a wide output pattern. For 850 nanometer region, we are using gallium arsenide and aluminum gallium arsenide. And for 1300 to 1550 nanometer region, we use iron gallium arsenide phosphate and indium phosphate. Next is the first type of LED source, that is the surface emitting LED. This diagram shows the cross section of a typical surface emitting LED. In surface emitting LED, the plane of active light emitting region is oriented perpendicular to the axis of the fiber. A double heterojunction diode is grown on an N-type substrate at the top of the diode. A circular well is etched through the substrate of the device, and a fiber is then connected to accept the emitted light. At the back of the device is a gold heat sink. The current flows through the P-type material and forms the small circular active region, resulting in the intense beam of light. The diameter of the circular active area is 50 micrometer. Thickness of circular active area is 2.5 micrometer, and the current density is 2000 ampere per centimeter square. The emission pattern is isotropic with 120 degree beam width. The isotropic emission pattern from surface emitting LED is shown here. In this pattern, the emitting surface is uniformly bright, but its projected area diminishes as cos theta, where theta is the angle between the viewing direction and the normal to the surface. The beam intensity is maximum along the normal. The power is reduced to 50% of its peak when theta is equal to 60 degree. Therefore, the total half power beam width is 120 degree. And the radiation pattern actually decides the coupling efficiency of LEDs. Next is surface emitting LED. This shows the structure of edge emitting LEDs. This shows the structure of edge emitting LED. In order to reduce the losses caused by the absorption in the active layer and to make the beam more directional, light is collected from the edge of the LED. Thereby, such type of LEDs are known as edge emitting LEDs. It consists of an active junction region, which is a source of incoherent light, and two guiding layers. The refractive index of the guiding layers is always lower than active region but higher than outer surrounding material. Thus, a waveguide channel is formed and optical radiation is directed into the fiber. Edge emitters pattern is more concentrated, that is, it is directional, providing improved coupling efficiency. The beam in the plane parallel to the junction but diverges more slowly in the plane perpendicular to the junction. In this plane, the beam divergence is limited. In the parallel plane, there is no beam confinement and the radiation is shown as in the diagram. It is an unsymmetrical radiation pattern. To maximize the output, useful output power, a reflector may be placed at the end of the diode opposite the emitting edge. Main features of ELEDs: it is having a linear relation between the optical output and current. The spectral width is 25 to 400 nanometer for a wavelength of 0.8 to 0.9 micrometer. It is not affected by catastrophic gradation mechanisms. It is having better coupling efficiency than surface emitter types, and they are temperature sensitive. But this type of LEDs are mostly suited for short range, narrow and medium bandwidth links and long distance analog links. This particular table shows some of the light source materials and their particular energy gap and recombination rate. This shows the advantages and disadvantages of LEDs. The advantages include simple design, ease of manufacture, simple system integration, low cost, high reliability. Disadvantages include refraction of light at semiconductor air interface region. The average lifetime is only few nanoseconds, and low coupling efficiency and large chromatic dispersion. This shows the comparison of surface emitting and edge emitting LEDs. Next, light sources is laser diode, and generally we are using injection laser diode as a light source in an optical fiber communication system. As you all know, the word laser is an acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Laser is a device which amplifies the light. The operation of the device may be described by the formation of an electromagnetic standing wave within a cavity, which is known as optical resonator, which provides an output of monochromatic, highly coherent radiation. Lasers are constructed from many different materials, including gases, liquids, and solids. Although the type of laser used most often for fiber optic communication is semiconductor laser. LEDs emit incoherent light, that is the light having combination of various wavelength, whereas laser emits light of single frequency or wavelength. So lasers are monochromatic source. The main principle three key transition process involved in laser actions are photon absorption, spontaneous emission, and stimulated emission. Material absorb light than emitting. Laser action is a result of three processes, as I told you before, that is the process of absorption of energy packet, that is the photons, then spontaneous emission and stimulated emission. Quantum theory states that any atom exists only in certain discrete energy state. Absorption or emission of light causes them to make a transition from one state to another. The frequency of the absorbed or emitted radiation is related to the difference in energy level between the two states. If E1 is the lower state energy level and E2 is the higher state energy level, E is the difference between these two energy level and is given by h into frequency, where h is Planck's constant and its value, as you all know, is 6.626 into 10 raised to minus 34 joules per second. An atom which is initially in a lower energy state, when the photon with energy is incident on an atom, it will get excited into the higher energy state E2, and this is happening through a process of absorption of photon. The energy state diagram representing the absorption of photon is shown here. So when the atom is initially in the higher energy state, it can make a transition to lower energy state, providing the emission of an photon at a frequency corresponding to E is equal to h nu or hf. It can happen due to, the emission process can happen due to two ways, that is by spontaneous emission, in which the atom returns to the lower energy state in a random manner, or by stimulated emission, where when a photon having equal energy to the difference between the two states interacts with the atom, causing it to the lower state with the creation of a second photon. The energy diagram for these spontaneous emission and stimulated emission is shown here. So spontaneous emission gives incoherent radiation, while stimulated emission gives coherent radiation. Hence, the light associated with the emitted photon is of same frequency of the incident photon and is in same phase with the same polarization. It means that when an atom is stimulated to emit light energy by an incident wave, the liberated energy can add to the wave in a constructive manner. The emitted light is bounced back and forth internally between two reflecting surfaces. The bouncing back and forth of light wave cause their intensity to reinforce and build up. The result is a high brilliance single frequency light beam providing amplification. This happens, that is, a stimulated emission results in laser. This shows the power current characteristics. So it's a graph between optical power and current. So from this particular power current characteristic, what we find is that below the threshold current, only spontaneous emission is emitted. Hence, there is small increase in output power with respect to drive current. Above the threshold current, the optical power increases sharply because of stimulated emission. The main advantages of injection laser diode: due to high directional pattern, it is easier to couple their light into an optical fiber. This reduces coupling loss and allows smaller fibers to be used. Optical power output from ILDs is greater than for an LED. For ILD, it is 1 to 100 milliwatt, whereas for LED is 1 to 10 milliwatt. It can be used at higher bit rates, that is bit rate greater than 200 megabits per second, and for longer distance communication than LEDs. As this generates monochromatic light, it reduces chromatic and wavelength dispersion. The main disadvantages of ILDs are: it is highly expensive than LEDs, it is having shorter lifetime, and ILDs are more temperature dependent than LEDs. Because of that, thermal stabilization is essential for ILDs, and therefore ILDs have complex drive circuitry than LEDs. The first diagram shows the optical characteristics of LEDs and laser. So output of a laser diode, it depends on the drive current passing through it. At a low drive current, the laser operates as an inefficient LED. When drive current crosses threshold value, lasing action begins. So below threshold level, the optical power will be similar to that of LED operation, and that is due to spontaneous emission. And above threshold will be having stimulated emission, and that is due to laser operation. And the below diagram shows the spectral and the spatial distribution of laser diodes and LED. At low current, laser diode acts like normal LED. Above threshold current, stimulated emission, that is narrowing of light ray to a few spectral lines instead of a broad spectral distribution exists. This enables the laser to easily couple to single mode fiber and reduces the amount of uncoupled light. This is a comparison table which compares the parameters This is a comparison table which compares the parameters of LED and laser diode. So mainly we are comparing the principle of operation, output beam, spectral width, data rate, transmission distance, temperature sensitivity and coupling efficiency of LED with the laser diodes. So that is all about light sources. Next is optical dictators or photodictators. The photodictator is a device which absorbs light and converts the optical energy to measurable electrical current. So a photodictator, it's a part of the receiver side of an optical fiber communication system. Dictators are generally classified into thermal dictators and photon dictators. Thermal dictators, when light falls on the device, it raises its temperature, which in turn changes the electrical property of the device. So we are converting the optical energy to electrical energy with a change in temperature. And some of the examples are thermopile, pyroelectric dictator, etc. Photon dictators work on the principle of conversion of photon to electrons. So such dictators are based on the rate of absorption of photons rather than on the rate of energy absorption. Examples are photodiodes. The main principle of optical dictator is they work on the principle of optical absorption. And we are commonly used two devices as optical dictators are PIN, that is the positive intrinsic and negative diodes, and avalanche photodiodes. These are the performance criteria of optical dictators. That is, the optical dictators should have sensitivity matched to the emission spectra of the optical transmitter. It should have a linear relationship between the intensity and the electrical signal. It should have high quantum efficiency and high spectral sensitivity. It is having fast response time. It should have stability of performance, low noise and low cost. First is positive intrinsic, negative diodes. So this diagram shows PIN diodes. Here we are including an intrinsic layer between the P-type and the N-type material. There is a PIN diode consists of an intrinsic semiconductor sandwiched between two heavily doped P-type and N-type material. Sufficient reverse voltage is applied to keep this intrinsic region free from carriers. This is done so that its resistance is high and therefore the electrical forces are strong within it. So the incident light give up their energy and excite an electron from the valence to the conduction band. Thus a free electron hole pair is generated, and these free electron hole pair are called photocarriers. These photocarriers are collected across the reverse bias junction resulting in rise in current in the external circuit, and this current is known as photocurrent. In the absence of light, PIN photodiodes behave electrically like an ordinary rectifier diode. If forward biased, they conduct large amount of current. They operate in two modes, that is photovoltaic and photoconductive mode. In photovoltaic mode, no bias is applied to the dictator. In this case, dictator works very slow and the output is approximately logarithmic to the input light level. In photoconductive mode, the dictator is reverse biased. The output in this case is a current that is very linear with the input light power. The intrinsic region somewhat improves the sensitivity of the light. It does not provide internal gain. The combination of different semiconductors operating at different wavelength allows the selection of the material capable of responding to the desired operating wavelength. This shows the energy band diagram of a PIN photodiode, and we are having a wider depletion region because of the presence of the intrinsic layer. The symbol of diode is same as that of normal diode, with the two arrows to show that light is inputting into the diode. Next is avalanche photodiode. An avalanche photodiode is having a PIPN structure. The light enters the diode and is absorbed by the thin, heavily doped P layer. This causes a high electric field intensity to be developed across the IPN junction. The highly reverse biased field intensity causes impact ionization to occur near the breakdown voltage of the junction. During impact ionization, the carrier can gain sufficient energy to ionize other bound electrons. These ionized carriers in turn cause more ionization to occur. The process continues like an avalanche and is effectively equivalent to an internal gain or carrier multiplication. It requires a high reverse bias for their operation, and for silicon this is typically 100 to 200 volt. The responsitivity and the rise time of APDs are of the order of 15 microampere per microwatt and 2 nanosecond respectively. We are going to discuss about the avalanche multiplication process. That is, an avalanche photodiode internally multiplies the photocurrent before it enters the input circuitry for amplification. So the multiplication effect is achieved by applying a very high electric field across the photodiode. When photogenerated electron encounters this high electric field, it can acquire sufficient energy to kick more electrons from the valence band to the conduction band, thereby creating secondary electron hole pairs. These secondary pairs are as longer accelerated to high energy level and therefore can generate even more electron hole pairs. This increases receiver sensitivity since the photocurrent multiplies prior to encountering the electrical noise associated with the receiver circuitry. This process is known as avalanche multiplication, and hence the device is called avalanche photodiode. This carrier multiplication mechanism is known as an impact ionization. And another thing is that we are mainly using a reach through construction, that is a RAP construction, for achieving this carrier multiplication. Some of the advantages of avalanche photodiode is that it is having greater level of sensitivity. The disadvantages include it requires higher operating voltage, produces a much higher level of noise than PIN diode, output is non-linear. Next, we are going to discuss about some of the parameters of photodictators. So the main parameters include quantum efficiency, response time, responsivity, and dark current. So before coming to the parameters, the first one we have to learn is the cutoff wavelength. Cutoff wavelength is the highest wavelength any particular semiconductor can absorb. That is, any particular semiconductor can absorb photon over a limited wavelength range, and cutoff wavelength is the highest wavelength of this range. And this is given by hc by Eg. H is Planck's constant, c is the velocity of light, lambda c is the cutoff wavelength in micrometer, Eg is the energy in electron volt. The next parameter is quantum efficiency. Quantum efficiency is defined as the number of electron hole carrier pair generated per incident photon of energy h nu. That is given by number of electron hole pair generated per number of incident photons. The equation is IP by Q. IP by Q is the number of electron hole pair generated divided by number of incident photon, that is PIN by h nu, where IP is the average photocurrent, PIN is the average optical power incident on the photodetector. And another thing, the absorption coefficient of a material determines the quantum efficiency. Quantum efficiency eta less than 1, as all the photons incident will not generate electron hole pairs, and it is normally expressed in percentage. Next is dictator responsivity. It is defined as the responsivity of a photodictator and is given by the ratio of current output in amperes to incident optical power in watt. It is denoted by R and is given by the equation IP by PIN, where IP is the incident it's a current output in amperes, and PIN is the incident optical power. So we know that quantum efficiency is equal to IP into h nu, IP by Q into h nu by PIN. If we rearrange that equation, we can write IP by PIN is equal to eta into Q by h nu. So we can replace responsivity, that is dictator responsibility, in terms of quantum efficiency. That is, responsivity is equal to quantum efficiency into Q divided by H into nu. Next is response time. The main factors affecting response times are the transit time of photocarriers within the depletion region, the diffusion time of the photocarriers outside the depletion region, and the RC time constant of the diode and the external circuitry. And next is the dark current. Dark current is the current flowing through the photodiode without light input. So you know the transit time is having a relation Td is equal to W by Vd, and the diffusion process is slow and the diffusion times are less than the carrier drift time. The dictator behaves as a simple low pass RC filter with a passband of 1 by 2 pi RC, where RT is the combination of input resistance of load and the amplifier, and CT is the sum of photodiode and amplifier capacitance. So these all are about the photodictators and photo sources, that is light sources and light detectors. Thank you.